Learn all about living in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico from Taniel Chemsian in this video interview with expats in Mexico.
How did you discover Vallarta?
Well, a big milestone birthday was coming up and I didn't want to spend it in Los Angeles. So I asked one of my close friends at that time, hey, I want to go somewhere special and different. And he had been here about 6 months. He had been to Puerto Vallarta about 6 months prior. So he suggested going there and I said, fine, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So I went to Vallarta for the first time for 9 days. I loved it. And from that very first trip, I told my friend and my family, I said, I'm moving to PV. So I gave myself like a 2-year plan. I came down here 5 more times. Just kind of did my due diligence, thinking
Over what period of time was the 5 times?
So from my first trip was November 2001, and then I moved here in October 2003.
Okay.
So between those 2 years, I
You
came
did quite a
down.
bit. Yeah.
I came down here. Yeah, every few months I was down here, and I came different times during the season. So the winter, the fall, summer.
Was the idea to see what the weather was like?
That's exactly right. See what the weather's like, see what the vibe is like in town,
Yeah.
what's open, what's closed. And then I interviewed a lot of expats that had relocated here, that had opened up businesses. They weren't retired per se,
Yeah.
because I was young. So I interviewed a lot of expats that opened up businesses to see what was that process like. So everything was really encouraging. I got a lot of great feedback from people. They were very forthcoming and willing to speak with me, very friendly. And so in the beginning of 2003, I started selling stuff, donating things. I just kind of started downsizing, paying off credit cards, consolidating certain accounts, just getting ready for my big move. And that happened in October of 2003. Also at that point, I opened up a men's little boutique clothing store. And that was enough to pay the bills, pay my rent, put food on the table.
Centro or the Romantic Zone?
It was in the Romantic Zone. Actually, my clothing store was probably it was like half a block from the pier. So right off of Palos Altos.
And how long did you have that?
I had the clothing store for 2.5 years, but
What was it called?
it was called Buy Curious, B-Y-E.
Oh, cool.
Curious, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
It's a fun play on words, but primarily the reason I called it that is to say goodbye to curiosity, in the sense that it doesn't matter if the clothing was made, for a man or a woman. If it looks good on you, you're comfortable with it,
Yeah.
go for it. So just saying, say goodbye to the curiosity and just enjoy it. Life's too short.
So what was it about real estate you found so interesting?
It was tough in the beginning. Plus, it was at the end of the last real estate cycle. So I went into this October 2006. And all the seasoned agents in my office were really busy. Nobody really had time to kind of sit down and go over things with you. But my broker, Carl Timothy, was wonderful. He never said no, he never closed his door, said, yes, come over here. So he's been my mentor ever since I started real estate. And that's how I learned, having Carl by my side. And eventually one sale led to another sale, led to another sale. And through repetition, in the years in business, and here I am.
Did you have a place lined up to rent before you came down?
So before I moved down here, I didn't have a place lined up. I had made friends with made some local friends. So I stayed in one of their apartments for about 2 weeks until we found a 4-bedroom apartment in El Centro. And then we all moved in over there. I was in El Centro by the church.
Oh, by the church? Wow,
Yes.
that's a great location.
It was great. Well, except for you can't sleep that well with the bells.
How much did you have to pay back then for a...
Good question. I think it was $600. We paid in dollars, so it was $650.
Oh,
So split that 3 ways. We're paying $200 something
Oh my
each.
gosh.
It was nothing.
that's a good deal.
Yeah, no, it was a great deal.
Do you recommend to your clients now that come down to rent before they actually buy, or?
Yeah, for some people, renting I think might be the better way to go, and for others, they're ready to buy. They've been here, a couple of times,
Yeah.
or they're seasoned buyers and sellers, so they're not afraid of buying sight unseen. Nowadays, it's not really sight unseen per se, because we have FaceTime, WhatsApp video,
Oh, sure.
we have virtual tours, so it really paints a clearer picture of the property. So that's really helped prospective buyers to feel a lot more
Huge.
comfortable.
Yeah.
And then some people that haven't really been here before, they've been here once or twice, but they haven't really explored the entire bay. Renting might be the best way to go. So they might rent like 3 or 4 months here, a couple of months there, and really get a sense of the vibe of where they want to be, whether or not they want to rent long term or purchase eventually.
Have most of the people been here at least once?
Most people have been here at least once, yes, but you'll be amazed. The last couple of years, I've had a lot of buyers that have never been here. I mean, people are just moving here in droves. And
Well, they have a lot of home equity.
well, they have a lot of home equity, yes, you know, that's part of it. But also, people are realizing that if we're gonna work from home, even if you own a home or you're renting in the States, in the big city, why do I need to live here? What am I getting out of it? You know, you're paying an astronomical amount in your overhead, property tax, you know, the inflation, cost of food, transportation, and getting stuck in traffic, and you know, so people are really looking at this. And of course, you know, there was a fear of another type of a pandemic, being in a big city versus being in the suburbs, or going down to Mexico, living on the beach, or some other place in the world, if you want to go to Europe, or you know, wherever you may want to wind up. So they're realizing that, you know, we do have options that's more affordable, and we can look at mountains, the ocean, the river, the desert, if you're into the desert, you know, and that's kind of what's been part of the driving force. And we've had a lot more young people buying here than ever before.
So more digital nomads are coming down
Yes.
there because they can work remotely down
Yes.
there.
Yeah, so digital nomads that are renters, full-time, long-term renters, and buyers. You know,
Oh.
so yeah, I have friends of mine, you know, they can work remotely, and they're just kind of living it up, traveling from country to country.
Do they have their own businesses, or they're working remotely from companies in the US?
Some do,
or Canada?
some have their own business, some of them work
So it's a
working for other
mix.
companies, it's a mix, yeah,
It's
sure.
a mix.
When I first started real estate, in October 2006, the majority of my clients, buyers and sellers, are baby boomers. And that's still primarily the case. But we have a lot of people in their late 20s, in their 30s, all the way up to their 60s that are moving here. They're either investing, buying like a rental investment property, they'll come down here ever so often, or they're moving here full time because they could work remotely. Or some of them, they're close to retirement and they're cashing out because property values in Canada and the States are like at an all-time high. And they're taking that money, and it goes a lot further down here in Mexico for a fraction of the price. You know, the property tax is like a non-issue. Usually it's a few $100s,
Right.
you know, for the year versus $10, $20, $30, $40,000,
Right.
right? So their money goes a lot further, and especially if you're retired and you're living on a fixed income. Well, like Mexico's become like a golden ticket, where your money is going to go a lot further here,
Right.
you know, than back at home, living in LA or another expensive city like San Francisco or Vancouver in Canada and Toronto. Well, by far, condominiums in Vallarta is the number one seller. You know, this is more of a condo market than a home. Primarily, I think, because, you know, nowadays, and this is becoming more and more, I think, throughout the world. You know, as people are working more, they're busy. You know, they don't want to maintain a house. You know, they realize it's a lot of work, and especially if it's your second or third home. Generally speaking, you want a condo because you just want it to be low maintenance. Just want to lock it up and go when you travel, and let somebody else, the association, take care of all the painting and the plumbing and the landscaping and all that stuff.
Why do you think it's so much more popular now?
Well, Vallarta's popularity just exploded. I mean, you know,
Oh, wow.
people, well, tourists, first of all, tourists that go back, they say, I love it, they tell their friends and family, so they come down.
So a lot of repeat visitors.
There are a lot of repeat visitors, and they bring down, you know, their friends. Mexico's doing a great job, you know, their tourism, promoting it. If you go to the United States, you see it all over the map.
What are the top 5 most popular neighborhoods in Vallarta for expats?
Right. So because the Vallarta's popularity has exploded, and certain markets have just kind of doubled in value, like the Romantic Zone being one of them. And people are looking at alternative neighborhoods. So over the last, I would say, 6 years, we've had a boom in regions like Versailles and Fluvial. If you go to Bucerias, there's been a big boom over there. They're building left, right, and center Bucerias, both on the west side of the highway and on the east side, where you have a lot of land, so you have a lot of gated communities that are being built over there as well. So I would say those are the primarily, and the Romantic Zone and Amapas and Conchas Chinas. They hadn't built in Conchas Chinas for a number of years. Now they're building in Conchas Chinas as well. And when I started, well, when the recession was happening, it was like pulling teeth to get people to go 10, 15 minutes to the South Shore to look at properties like on Punta Negra Beach or Playa Gemelas.
Right.
Now those regions are booming as well. Properties are selling within a day with multiple offers. So we're seeing a big boom everywhere, you know, north, south, east, and west.
Someone was retiring here, and an older couple, like, they retire at 62 or 65, when they retire in Puerto Vallarta. And they were basically living on Social Security,
Mhm.
and they had maybe $2,500 net a month. Where would you send them if they wanted to live in a house?
If they want to rent a house?
Yeah,
Well, if your overall budget is $2,500 on a month, then how much do you want to spend on rent?
well, the rule of thumb usually is a third, so let's say it's, you know, like,
There are a lot of houses in Vallarta is big. There are a lot of neighborhoods I haven't even been to. So it's one of the few regions in Mexico where it's a dollar market. You know, like Cabo is a dollar market primarily, and so is Cancun and Playa del Carmen. But it's a place where even Mexican nationals, if that dollar is saved up, they can invest in the property in dollars. It appreciates in dollars. They rent in dollars. So they're doing really, really well. So we had a lot of Mexican nationals that are buying their second or third home, buying in these US dollar markets. So it's a great way for them to invest in their own country and have their appreciation and their income, rental income in dollars. So that's also kind of added to our market, the nationals that have been investing over here. I've had more Mexican nationals buying in the romantic zone the last couple of years than ever before. Because most of them prefer to like the more shinier, newer neighborhoods like the Hotel Zone and Nueva Vallarta, but they're discovering like places like the Romantic Zone, where it's a high rental environment here. So it's like a cash cow that they're renting out these properties in dollars, and they're making money.
what does Vallarta look like 5 to 10 years down the road?
Well, you know, I never thought Vallarta was going to be what it is today, in the sense that the explosive growth that it's had. I just moved down here just because I enjoy the ocean. I love the people, and just kind of, it's a slow paced vibe. And you still have that per se, and yet it's great for people that are coming down here, that are young enough, they still want to have a business. Because sometimes when you go to a resort, and there's not much going on besides drinking, sitting on the beach and drinking, right? So if somebody were to open up a business, there's really not much business going on. It's not thriving, the economy's not thriving, outside of just the restaurants on the beach making a lot of money, right, from cocktails. So one of the beauties about living in Banderas Bay is that it's a thriving, growing economy. And it's not just 100% dependent on expats moving here. There are a lot of Mexican nationals that are relocating to Vallarta because of the economy, because of the opportunities here. And that's really great. And if the way things are moving and the growth that we're having is any indication of where we're headed, I think we can comfortably say that we're headed we're in an upwards spike rather than kind of downwards. People are moving here instead of moving out of here. So that's a big plus.
So if we have 500,000 people that live around the bay right now, 10 years from now, is it gonna be 1 million?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a lot of people, you know. And every city goes through their growing pains as well. And people say, you know, what about the infrastructure? Well, I'm from Los Angeles. So let me tell you, I mean, a lot of times cities do not invest millions or billions of dollars in infrastructure unless it's absolutely needed. Because you just don't know 5 years, 10 years from now if those projections of growth are actually going to come to fruition, right? So, and no one's going to fund that kind of a money per se for the most part, you know, if they don't know if it's going to be absolutely needed, because, you know, things can change at a snap of a finger. But thank goodness right now things are good. Vallarta has grown. That they've been fixing streets, you know, like in what do you call it, in the Gringo Gulch. You know, last year they closed down a lot of the streets because they're repaving it. If you go to Versailles, you know, they're constantly doing all the streets. It used to be all dirt and beat up cobblestone, so they're putting in nice streets. I'm seeing the government pumping money into the infrastructure, which is great. Yeah. And I read just recently that they're going to expand the airport yet again.
What was that one thing you said that stuck out in your mind that you said, I gotta get down there, I gotta move to Puerto Vallarta?
You just feel really relaxed when you're in Vallarta. I think, you know, when you step off the airplane, you're taking your first breath, you know, not to sound like a cliche, but you just feel like, you know, you decompress. you know, and that's really key. You know, you're I think most of the time, the decisions we're making about our lives is hopefully we're trying to find a better path, get to a better place, a happier place, whether it's a relationship, you're geographically relocating, you're moving to a different job. All that is the hope, excuse me, is the hope of being happier, you know? And so I just wasn't happy in LA anymore. You know, I mean, LA had everything, it still has everything, material-wise, it's easy to find whatever you need, you know? But it was just exhausting, you know? I mean, from the traffic, the rat race, and the cost of living, you're just constantly drained, you know, because of what a big city does to you. And so I just wanted to slow down a little bit, still work, you know, I was young. But I just wanted to slow down and kind of be able to pause and smell the roses. And I just felt like there weren't like a, you know, like a bouquet of roses anywhere over there, because you're just constantly, you know, boom, 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 and next thing you know, you're just white. So when I came down here for the first time, and I just, you know, I stayed in Lapa Lapa condos. That's where I rented all 6 times before I moved here. And I just kind of walked through the doors of Lapa Lapa, and then there's the ocean, there's the sound of the waves, there's the sand, and you just kind of took a deep breath. And you're like, ah, finally.
Yeah.
You know, it was that feeling where you just finally felt like, oh my God,
And
I can finally relax and just chill. And that's gold right there.